Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. So my name is Paulo, and today we're going to be talking about salary package and perks. What is it that you can actually expect on the tech industry, consulting, and also end customer? Why all of those three? Essentially because I went and worked on all of those three type of industries. So I'm happy to share with you what is it that you should be taking into consideration. With that said, why is it that I'm doing all of this as well? Essentially because for me it was quite painful, and I'm guessing that for some of you as well. So if you want to know what is it that you should or you can actually negotiate, stick around. Okay, so I'll give you all of that, break it down so that it's actually easier for you to take that into consideration and fast track your career. Okay, with that said, also, and just to address that question before we move forward, so I received a couple of questions on, and because it connects to this, I'll just reply to them straight away. So, can you please share with me a few tips and tricks on how to negotiate? Okay, that I'll do a specific video on that. Okay, so that you stick around if you want to know more about that. Also, actually, just to teach you how is it that you can move from one job to the other and get 20 30k more from one job to the other. The other point was, what is it that you actually do, Paul? So currently I'm working as associate director, so I work at a global level and on a tech consulting that is actually a company that also does products. So if you want to know more about that, just check my LinkedIn. Okay, click on the link above, and feel free to check also the job offers that we have there. We are always looking for talented people. Okay. Aside from that, also, so what is it that I do? So I work essentially on the implementation of CRM, MarTech, marketing technology, and I lead teams and I work on a very complex set. Okay, with that said, let's crack on. What is it that you can expect for this video? So I'm going to be breaking down then the different type of package and perks, the package salary that is, and perks that you can actually have across those three industries. But also I'm going to give you a snip of what is it that you should be expecting if you're going to be working on different countries, on the 5 countries that I lived and worked, such as the Netherlands, Belgium, UK, Spain, and Portugal. Okay, with that said, let's crack on. I'll drop all the resources, links on the description below. Feel free to check them out. And for now, let's crack on and start with base salary. So stick around if you want to know more. So fast tracking 5 countries. Okay, so I'm gonna be sharing that with you as well. Okay, so talking about the countries that I've been working on, what I can say to you that base salary actually depends, of course. But it also depends for a different reason. So number of hours that you actually work, but also aside from that, how often are you actually paid? Okay, so I'll break that down for you in a way that is more understandable. So, for instance, if you work on the Netherlands, Portugal, or for instance the UK, the expectation is that you're going to be paid on 12 months. Okay, but for instance, if you work in Belgium, the expectation is that you're going to be paid on 13.82 months. Okay, so it's not 14, it's not 12, it's 13.82. Okay, then lastly, if you work in Spain, then the expectation is that you're going to be paid between 12 to 14 months. It will depend on the contract that you have, on the agreement of with the company, so that will depend. Okay, so moving forward, and if you look for the different countries, so let's start with Portugal. So Portugal, you can actually expect to have a base salary that will pay for you 40 hours a week. Okay, but those 40 hours a week can actually be extended to 60 hours a week. Okay, ouch, I still remember that. So 60 hours a week, and this, of course, it will depend on the agreement that you have with your company, but please be mindful of that. So moving forward, the Netherlands. So the expectation is then 38.5 hours a week. It's expected also, or you can actually expect to work 5 days, but aside from that, also 3 or even 4 days. Okay, so that is also interesting and needs to be taken into consideration. Okay. Moving forward, so if we talk about Belgium, so the expectation is 40 hours, but as I mentioned, 13.92 months, okay, of payment. Then if we go to the UK, it becomes a bit more tricky. So you have, if I do recall correctly, it's like 48 hours a week that you can go up to. But if you are actually below 18, you cannot work over 40 hours. Okay. Then moving into Spain, it's 38.5, but can be 40, or it can be actually 37, as for instance on the case that I'm at currently, where the agreement that exists with the company is that we work actually 37 hours. Okay, so with that said, all of that needs to be taken into consideration, because you can have specific agreements with the council of workers or whatever syndicate that eventually, or union that eventually represents you, and all of that has an impact on the base salary. Okay, but nevertheless, base salary, it depends on all of the above that I mentioned. Okay, let's move to the next one, much more interesting. This is where the salary package starts to make much more sense, to be much more interesting. Let's talk about bonus. What are the type of bonus that you can actually expect to have? Okay, so stick around if you want to know more. Okay, let's then talk about bonus. Okay, on the previous one, I did not made any, let's say, differentiation between tech, consulting, or even end customer, because all of those actually have base salaries. Okay, with that said, let's move then forward. So, looking into the bonus, what is it that you can actually expect? So here you have different type of bonus. Okay, so let's start with the more common ones. So you have one that is called annual bonus. Okay, so this is valid for both tech, end customer, or even consulting. Okay, so normally speaking, you should be expecting between a bonus of 5 till 20% or plus. Okay, it will depend. Also has some points that you need to take into consideration. So it will depend of two things. Okay, so one, you can have bonus just are based on your performance. Okay, so if you can or not actually meet the objectives that you have, okay, throughout the year. And also the other ones is around then, for instance, could be that on the case of your company, it's like 50% dependent on the performance of the company, and the other 50% dependent on your performance. Okay, those are the worst possible ones. Okay, I would say. Okay, but going back to the first one, on the one that actually depends on you. When I'm talking about, and even on the second one actually. So when I'm talking about the 20% is out of your annual salary. Okay, so the bonus goes against that. So if you're earning, let's say 50,000, will be 20% of those 50,000. If you're earning 30, will be 20% of that. Or if you're earning 80, 100K, will be against that. Okay, so that you have that into consideration. Okay, so moving forward, then a specific type of bonus that is actually quite, it's getting more and more used, let's put it like that, on tech. But I don't see it anywhere else. So I'm talking about sign-off bonus. Okay, so essentially this kind of bonus, meaning it's a kind of golden handcuffs. Okay, in the sense that, for instance, you sign off for a specific company, they pay you an X amount, could be, I don't know, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, whatever you agreed with the company that they pay with you for you to sign an agreement with them. Okay, but normally speaking, you're gonna have a kind of mandatory clause that if you leave before, I don't know, 2 years or so, you need to give back the money. Okay, so take attention to that. So pay attention to that. Okay, so that is specifically on tech. Then moving forward, a more kind of used kind of bonus, it will depend. So it's called relocation package. Okay, normally speaking, it's a bonus that is given to those that actually are coming from different countries, and therefore it's needed to pay a relocation package. This will depend on your level, okay, and on the company policy as well. But essentially, you can expect for the company to pay an X amount for your relocation, or eventually even the full package, or an X amount in terms of plafond. Okay, could be 1,000, could be 2,000, 5,000, 10,000. or even more. Okay, it will depend on what is it that you negotiate with your company. Okay, aside from that as well, there is another kind of bonus. Okay, that is called spot bonus. Okay, so what is this for? So essentially, it's just to underline the fact that you had a really brilliant spell, okay, at your company at a given time, and with that said, they will pay for you. For instance, imagine that you had an amazing first year or 6 months or whatever, and the company wants to recognize that, so they give you a spot bonus because you are actually having a very strong performance. Okay, so those are some of the bonus that you can actually expect, and you should really negotiate when you go into your salary package. Not just the base salary, but go beyond that and actually negotiate the bonus because you deserve it. Okay, so stick around for the next one. Okay, let's go then to the third part. So let's talk about perks slash benefits. Okay, more and more, this is something that you really should consider when you are negotiating your salary package. Okay, it's not just about your base salary, but much more. So you should be looking at the bonus, as I mentioned on the previous part of this video, but also on more than that, okay, the benefits, okay, the perks. So as some of the perks that I can share with you that are getting more and more common, so therefore you should really ask for that, is for instance, access to company cards, okay, also for instance, if you have more traveling, it's important for you to think on that. But aside from that, free food, it's quite common, for instance, on tech companies. Also, discounts in terms of kindergarten or kindergarten support as well. Aside from that, also on more and more companies, it's normal for you to actually to have access to a ticket restaurant. It's a kind of a card that allows for you to have a plafond that you can actually use for food. Okay, also aside from that is flexibility. Okay, that for me it's one of the most important perks, because in our day and age you need to be flexible. Okay, so I think that is really important. Flexible in terms of daily entries and exits. Okay, it's what is important at the end is that you do your job, okay, that you meet or smash your goals. But aside from that, also potentially in the future looking to flexibility in terms of location. Okay, those are some of the things that I feel that you should be negotiating for. Okay, so aside from that, healthcare. Okay, so access to healthcare, free insurance should be something that you should be also considering as part of your package. Okay, then on top of that as well, car. Eventually, if you are at a higher position, you should be actually asking for a car or an alternative or car allowance. Okay, so this is also valid for all the three type of companies, but it's more normal, let's say, on consulting companies or even end customer, but much more on consulting companies where car is more of a perk. Okay. Aside from that, what is it that I would consider also relevant and important is for you to take all of those into consideration. Take a look into your daily life. What is it that you should actually benefit from, and have that clear when you go into the negotiation. Okay, so last but not least, let's move then to the last part. Let's talk about stocks, equity, essentially. Okay, so stick around if you want to know more. Okay, let's then talk about the last part of the salary package. So essentially, we're talking about equity. Okay, so looking into this, and as I mentioned, I'm always going to be trying to build the bridge then towards the different type of industries that I've worked on, so that you can have hands-on experience, let's say, on the topic. Okay, so with that said, looking into equity. So equity, I would say that is normally translates into stocks. Okay, but with that said, you should only consider this for tech companies and then also for consulting. Okay, so let's start with the consulting since it's the less complex. Okay, and then let's go into the tech side of things. So looking into consulting, normally speaking, you should only consider actually to have access to stocks if you are at the partner level. Okay, so normally speaking, that's when you get that. So it's a senior position. Aside from that, it's going to be difficult for you to actually to get access to stocks. Okay, then moving forward and talking about tech, that is much more complex, as I said, but also much more interesting on that front. Talking about this, so normally speaking, you have let's say a different difference between startups and big tech. Okay, so with startups, you need to pay really attention into the equity. Okay, why? Okay, and also I would say even on big tech, but on a different view. Okay, on startups, I would say that equity is like it's paper money, and it's a bit like a lottery ticket. Okay, you can be really successful if the startup actually grows a lot and eventually goes into IPO. I'll explain to you what is that about. But aside from that, you should not really be expecting a lot of, or expending, let's say, a lot of energy on getting the best possible value in terms of this, because it's unlikely that all the startups will have success. So with that said, pay your attention much more towards the bonus side of things, your base salary and your perks. Okay, so and why? Just because most startups do not have success. Okay, if you go then into big tech, that is different. Okay, so I'll give you my take on that as well. The reason why I'm doing or I'm saying all of this is because I already work on two tech companies. Okay, and I can give you that for a fact that there's a difference there. Okay, so with that said, one thing that normally happens is with tech companies, may that be small or big companies, whenever you sign the contract, you always receive meaning equity. Okay, so it could be like for instance, you're going to be receiving 20, 30, 40, 80,000, doesn't matter what is the number, on unicorn RSUs for 4 years vesting with 1 year cliff. Okay, so that is the kind of situation that you're going to be confronted with. What does that translate into? Essentially, when you're talking about vesting, is or even starting with the cliff. No, when you're talking about the cliff, is like the mandatory time that you need to be at the company. Okay, 1 year that you need to be mandatory at the company in order for you to actually to be able to receive your money. Okay, then you need to wait for instance 4 years to vest. Okay, this is normally is to convert those into actually in money. Potentially speaking, but normally this is said, or this is put in a way that is for companies to save money on taxes. So pay attention into that as well. Okay, aside from that, also as I was referring to before, so then there is this difference between let's say private companies and public companies. Okay, so startups normally are private companies, and whenever they go to IPO, when someone actually acquires them and they move from a private into a public company, that's where, for instance, you can actually earn your money. Also, what can happen is that the company does not go public, but actually is fully acquired by another company. Okay, on that, also what will happen is that your money, meaning your paper money, will convert into actual money. So it's important for you also to understand how much can you actually receive. Okay, I'll give you a quick formula on how is it that you can look into how to calculate that. Okay, and then let's go into the big tech. So essentially, and this is valid also, I would say, almost for the big tech as well. Normally speaking, you should take into consideration how much do you actually have in terms of RSUs, okay, of stocks, and then take into consideration how much do exist out there. Okay, so divide that number, okay, yours by the amount that you have out there, and then multiply by the evaluation of the company at that moment in time. That, give or take, will give you the amount that you should be expecting to receive, okay, as a kind of an indicator. Okay, then moving then into big tech, so public companies. Okay, here is where you should actually spend really your time on looking how is it that you can better negotiate your stocks, okay, your RSUs, because that said, it can turn into be loads of money. So take your time and invest wisely, or prep yourself wisely for the negotiation, because most likely, even if you do not sell the company, it's likely that tech will continue to grow. Therefore, potentially speaking, the value of your stocks will continue to grow as well. Okay. So with that said, I would give it a kind of a closure to this, and I'll give you my golden rule. Okay. So if you are at a smaller startup, don't spend loads of time on negotiating the value of, let's say, of your equity. Spend much more time on negotiating your bonus. Spend much more time negotiating your perks and also your base salary. If you are moving much more towards a startup that is about to be sold or has high potential of being sold, then spend time on that, mostly because you can go into IPO or even going towards the sellout to another company. Okay. Then last but not least, if you're going to go into big tech, then for sure invest your time and consider stocks as part of your negotiation package. Okay. With that said, I'm wrapping this up. Hopefully this was an interesting session. If you have any questions, any concerns with regards to your salary package, just drop it on the comments below. I'm happy to follow up on that and give you my advice. Also, if you want to know more how to become a successful consultant, just check on the link above where I explain all of that. I've done roughly a couple of videos around that. Feel free to check them out as well. And to close, if you have any questions on this, once more, I'm here for you. And that's it, guys. Okay, just give it a thumbs up, smash the like button, hit the notification bell, and yeah, take care. Enjoy your day. Okay, cheers. Bye bye.